A city within a city. We are in Campo de Ourique in Lisbon, a neighborhood where its residents boast that it has everything. There's no point in even leaving this district. I'm Kalie with Expats Everywhere. Let's check it out.
We're in Lisbon breaking down some of the top expat neighborhoods you should consider living in if you're interested in Lisbon. We researched and asked other content creators who live here what they think the top neighborhoods for expats to live in are. Make sure that you watch our whole series, stay to the end to see our rating and if we would live here. Now, on to Campo de Ourique.
This neighborhood is technically a newer parish that was created in 2012 by merging two other parishes together and is considered to be part of the historic center of Lisbon, like Estrela, which just lies to the south of it. Several notable Portuguese have lived in this neighborhood, but Fernando Pessoa, a famous writer, is probably the most famous from this area, and his apartment is a museum now.
The east part of the neighborhood is gridded out nicely, with the west part pushing into the massive green space of Parque Florestal do Monsanto and some main roads that connect you with some other parts of the Lisbon region. It's flat and very walkable here.
The architecture here is definitely something that needs to be noted, but you're going to get a mix of old and new, with a lot more of new than other parts of Lisbon.
Now, this neighborhood has a much more livable feel with far less tourist attractions. There's a beautiful cemetery that's technically on the border of Estrela and Campo de Ourique that will draw tourists in, but other than that, and maybe the Campo de Ourique market, you won't have too much foot traffic. There are traditional gyms around the district, but they also have some more modern type gyms here like eBody, where they use electromuscle stimulation.
With shopping, restaurants, and parks, you'll get much more space here. It's not super well connected as there's not a metro, but you do have a couple of tram lines and buses.
Here we're on one of the main streets, Rua Ferreira Borges, and that leads you down to the Amoreiras Towers. These towers have apartments, offices, and a big mall. You can also head to the top of one of the towers where there's an observation deck and a 360-degree view, but it does cost to go up there.
Campo de Ourique is in the flight path, so airplane noise might be an issue. When considering accommodations, you'll want to see how noisy it gets with your windows closed and open.
And speaking of housing, let's give you an idea of what rents and buying will be like here. It's possible to find reasonable rent here, but like we always say, there are several factors that you have to take into consideration.
For a T1, plan to spend between 700 and 900 euros. As the apartments get bigger, obviously the prices go up. For a T3, prices range from about 1,300 euros to 1,500 euros, but there are higher end properties available here that are big. So if you're looking for a place that's 200 square meters or more, then you're looking closer to 2,750, upwards of 4,000.
For buying, there are T1 apartments in the 40 to 50 square meter range for 130,000 to 170,000 euros. Now, just like with rent, there are more affordable options, but also higher end options. For a T3 that is livable but in need of renovations, you can expect to pay from 220,000 to 275,000. If you're looking for something recently renovated and ready to move into, plan to pay closer to 450,000 euros for around 80 square meters.
Mercado de Campo de Ourique is a good place to shop and grab a bite, but you also have a variety of other grocery stores here. For a small neighborhood, it does a good job of having a great mix of restaurants, but also places to shop. The variety of food is also outstanding.
Vegan pastel de nata.
Oh, the top is burnt, kind of tastes like a
Creme brulee?
kind of, or like a campfire, you know?
Okay.
You know? Okay, the cream is good, or the custard stuff is good, whatever it is, but it's not the same.
Texture's different, for sure. Not as sweet as some of the pastel de nata that we have. The egginess that you get from a pastel de nata is missing. I wonder why. Vegan. It's still good.
It's different.
It doesn't hit the spot though. It doesn't warm the soul like a real pastel de nata, but it's still pretty good. While the food options here are great, it might not always be as connected as some would like. There aren't any metro stops here, but there are bus stops. There are a couple of tram stops right on the southern edge of the district, but they don't run through the neighborhood.
Even though there aren't as many public transportation options as other parts of Lisbon, it's good to know that this neighborhood is extremely walkable, like we mentioned earlier. It's flat and gridded out nicely with a little garden that's kind of in the middle for shade and kids to play at. This is a neighborhood where you don't need a car for getting around on a day-to-day basis, but you could have one for exploring other parts of Lisbon and the Lisbon region, which, like we said, it has easy access to some main roads that are on the west side of the district. This also helps if you're looking for international or private schools, as there aren't great options in this neighborhood, but you can jump on some of these main roads and get to these schools quite easily.
With gyms, pools, food options, and more, you'll see that this small area has a lot to offer for those that want to get out of the hectic buzz of the other parts of Lisbon. It feels a little calmer here and has some history to it as well. Maybe the locals are right that they say that it has everything, but would we live here?
Okay, so Campo de Ourique, what did you think of this area?
I like it. I definitely liked how gridded out it was. I felt like it was easy to navigate. I mean, maybe in a way it could feel a little samey from street to street, especially once you get off the main avenue. But I liked it.
I did too. It seemed calmer, just a little quieter, organized. The restaurant scene was really good. They had a lot of good options, a good variety, I thought, for such a small area too.
Yeah, I feel like this is the kind of neighborhood that it's so small and kind of enclosed that you could probably start to get to know the different shops, shopkeepers, and just services in your neighborhood because there's less tourism. So like sometimes I feel like whenever we're here and we're in the city center, we're always treated like tourists, even though we live here. Like even though we live in Portugal, we're always treated like a foreign tourist because, you know, our Portuguese isn't great. It's okay, we throw it out there. But yeah.
But when you go to the center part of any of the big cities.
Any of the big cities, yeah. I feel like in Campo de Ourique, it wouldn't be like that.
Mm-hmm. You'd get to know people. Yeah, that makes sense. I do like how it's close to the mall. I mean, that's not technically part of the neighborhood, but you can just walk over to this great mall, this great area with food options and shopping. So I did like that it's close to that area.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, if you're thinking about living in another area that doesn't have a mall as close, then you're having to jump on public transportation to get there. Now, some people don't mind that, but it's awesome to have one in walking distance.
Which is good since the public transportation isn't the best there without a metro. I mean, you have the trams and buses and such, but it's not as connected as other parts of Lisbon would be, other neighborhoods.
Yeah, another thing that I was surprised about is just how many food and beverage options there were, and the variety I felt was quite good. We didn't get an amazing sense of the price. Like, I'm not 100% sure kind of how more expensive it is for like foreign foods, but I imagine with the location being where it is, you're not going to get hit with as many kind of touristy priced restaurants.
That's true. So I think a couple things to consider is it's very easy to walk. So whether you have young kids or you're just not great at the hills, walkability is really good. The airplane noise though, that would be something to consider when you're taking a look at your accommodations to see how loud it is. Because a lot of times when the weather's good, you have your windows open, but how loud will that be? There were some green spaces, it was quite shaded, so not too sunny. And not too far from the center, but probably not like walking into Lisbon or walking to the water. It's a little far from that for that.
Yeah, and this is what I was gonna say. So the major downside that I noticed is because of where it's located, it feels like it's on an island. So that means that when you want to leave, then the public transportation is not gonna be great because you're not gonna be able to jump onto the metro and just head out, which we love taking metros. We find them really convenient, both in reliability in terms of the timing and also how fast and accessible it is. So the thing that I find is once you leave this nice flat area, now you're having to tackle a hill. There's gonna be a hill confronting you if you wanna get down into the city center. So if you're walking, yikes.
It could be a bit much. So it's almost like it has everything and you could never leave, but when you do want to leave, it's a little inconvenient.
Yeah, so let's talk about ratings out of 5, with 1 being you wouldn't want to live there at all, 5 being yes, you'd want to live there. Where does it land for you?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I'm going to give this neighborhood a 3.
Okay.
I think it's right in the middle. I think it had a lot of good qualities that would be very livable, but some other things that the vibe wasn't my favorite, I would say. Like I could do it, and it was nice, and I think I would enjoy it, but it wouldn't be my first choice for Lisbon.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna go with a 4.
Okay.
I say really, honestly, that con that I had just a minute ago would be why I would take a point away.
Just getting around.
Yeah, getting around, getting outside the neighborhood. But again, like you said, on a day-to-day basis, it's so insular. Like you've got everything that you need, and that's awesome.
Yeah. I guess the other thing I would think about is if you do have older kids, then you're probably going to an international or private school around. You might need a car, but accessibility to those main roads to get to these schools is pretty easy. So you might need a car though.
Yeah. If you guys want to check out other neighborhoods that we've talked about here in Lisbon, click on this playlist right here. Now, let's get moving. Bye.
A city within a city. We are standing in Campo de Ourique, the neighborhood in Lisbon, where people boast that you don't have to go anywhere because this neighborhood has everything you need. I'm Kalie with Expats Everywhere. Let's check it out.